Shalom, welcome to Scripture 365. We are in Proverbs chapter 15, and after it, we're going to follow up with 1 Samuel chapter 20, starting on chapter 29. But before I go, we are all excited. My wife and I, we're so excited. We are going to go to Sukkot, otherwise known as Tabernacles, the Feast of the Nations. We're going to be there starting tomorrow. We're leaving around 10 o'clock, and it is about a 3-hour car ride. We may be picking up a friend of ours. I don't know. I'll find out later on today. But we're going to be at Sukkot up in Old Town. We're going to celebrate Tabernacles, remembering the children as they walked through the wilderness once they got set free, let go out of Egypt. So that's what Sukkot is all about, remembering the traveling time. And we're going to be celebrating that. Last year, was the first time I celebrated Sukkot or Tabernacle, and it totally changed my life. I can't wait to see what God has in store. So, hey, I may not be able, depending on the internet, I may not be able to do any video recording and sharing it because we may not have internet. I will have to find out and see if we do have internet or not. But I will try. I will take some pictures to share it also. And I will post it onto YouTube and share the links. So be blessed. And let's go right into Proverbs chapter 15, starting on verse 1. Read along with me. A gentle response allies wrath. A harsh word provokes anger. The tongue of the wise produces much knowledge, but the mouth of dullards pours out folly. The eyes of Yah are everywhere, observing the bad and the good. A healing tongue is the tree of life, but a devious one makes for a broken spirit. A fool spurns the discipline of his father, but one who heeds reproof becomes clever. In the house of the righteous there is much treasure, but in the harvest of the wicked there is trouble. The lips of the wise disseminate knowledge, not so the minds of dullards. A sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination to Yah, but the prayer of the upright pleases him. The way of the wicked is an abomination to Yah, but he loves him who pursues righteousness. 10. Discipline seems bad to him who forsakes the way. He who spurns reproof will die. Sheol and Abaddon lie exposed to Yah. How much more the minds of men? The scoffer dislikes being reproved. He will not resort to the wise. A joyful heart makes a cheerful face. A sad heart makes a despondent mood. The mind of the prudent man seeks knowledge. The mouth of the dullard pursues folly. All the days of a poor man are wretched, but contentment is a fast without. Let me read that again. 15. All the days of a poor man is wretched, but contentment is a feast without end. Better a little with fear of Yah than great wealth with confusion. Better a meal of vegetables where there is love than a fattened ox where there is hate. A hot-tempered man provokes a quarrel. A patient man calms strife. The way of a lazy man is like the hedge of thorns, but the path of the upright is paved. 20. A wise son makes his father happy. A fool of a man humiliates his mother. Folly is joy to one devoid of sense. A prudent man walks a straight path. Plans are foiled for want of counsel, but they succeed through many advices. A ready response is a joy to a man, and how good is a word rightly timed. For an intelligent man, the path of life leads upward in order to avoid Sheol below. Yah will tear down the house of the proud, but he will establish the homestead of the widow. Evil thoughts are an abomination to Yah, but pleasant words are pure. He who pursues ill-gotten gain makes trouble for his household. He who spurns gifts will live long. The heart of the righteous man rehearses his answer, but the mouth of the wicked blurts out evil things. Yah is far from the wicked, but he hears the prayer of the righteous. 30. What brightens the eye, gladdens the heart. Good news puts fat on the bones. Whose ear heeds the discipline of life launches among the wise. He who spurns discipline hates himself. He who heeds reproof gains understanding. And last, the fear of Yah is the discipline of wisdom. Humility precedes honor. This concludes the reading of Proverbs chapter 15. Let's turn to 1 Samuel chapter 29. The Philistines reject David. 1 Samuel chapter 29, starting on verse 1. Now the Philistines had gathered all their forces in Outback, and the Israelites were encamped by the spring that is in Jezreel. And the lords of the Philistines were passing on by hundreds and by thousands, and David and his men were passing on in the rear with Achish, the commander of the Philistines, said, "What are these Hebrews doing here?" And Achish said to the commanders of the Philistines, Is this not David, the servant of Saul, king of Israel, and hath been with me now for days and years, and since he deserted to me, I have found no fault in him to this day. But the commanders of the Philistines were angry with him, and the commanders of the Philistines said to him, "Send the man back, that he may return to the place to which you have assigned him. He shall not go down with us to battle, lest in the battle he become an adversary to us. For how could this fellow reconcile himself to his Lord? Would it not be with the heads of the men here? Is not this David, of whom they sing the one another in dances? Saul has struck down his 1,000, and David his 10,000. Then Achish called David and said to him, "As the Lord lives, you have been honest, and to me it seems right that you should march out and in with me in this campaign. For I have found nothing wrong in you from the day of your coming to me to this day. Nevertheless, the Lords do not approve of you. So go back now, and go peaceably, that you may not displease the lords of the Philistines." And David said to Achish, "But what have I done? What have you found in your servant from the day I entered your service until now, that I may not go and fight against the enemies of my lord the king?" And Achish answered David and said, "I know that you are blameless in my sight as an angel of God. Nevertheless, the commanders of the Philistines have said, He shall not go up with us to the battle. Now then, rise early in the morning with the servants of your Lord, who came with you, and start early in the morning, and depart as soon as you have light. So David set out with his men early in the morning to return to the land of the Philistines. But the Philistines went up to Jezreel. David's wives are captured. Chapter 30. Now when David and his men came to Ziklag on the third day, the Amalekites had made a raid against the Negev and against Ziklag. And they had overcome Ziklag and burned it with fire, and took captive the women and all who were in it, both small and great. They killed no one, but they carried them off and went their way. And when David and his men came to the city, they found it burned with fire, and their wives and sons and daughters taken captive. Then David and the people who were with him raised their voices and wept until they had no more strength to weep. David's two wives also have been taken captive, Ahinoam of Jezreel and Abigail, the widow of Nabal of Carmel. And David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of stoning him because of all the people who were bitter in soul, and each for his own son and daughter. But David strengthened himself in the Lord his God. And David said to Abiathar, the priest, the son of Ahimelech, Bring me the ephod. So Abiathar brought the ephod to David. And David inquired of the Lord, Shall I pursue after this band? Shall I overtake them? He answered him, Pursue, for you shall surely take and shall surely rescue. So David sent out, and the 600 men who were with him, and they came to the brook Besor, where those who were left behind stayed. But David pursued, he and the 400 men. 200 stayed behind, who were too exhausted to cross the brook Besor. They found an Egyptian in the open country and brought him to David, and they gave him bread and he ate. They gave him water to drink, and they gave him a place of a cake of figs and 2 clusters of raisins. And when he had eaten, his spirit revived, for he had not eaten bread or drunken water for 3 days and 3 nights. And David said to him, To whom do you belong, and where are you from? He said, I am a young man of Egypt, servant to an Amalekite, and my master left me behind because I fell sick 3 days ago. We have made a raid against the Negev of the Cherethites, and against that which belonged to Judah, and against the Negev of Caleb. And we burned Ziklag with fire. And David said to him, Will you take me down to this band? And he said, Swear to me by God that you will not kill me or deliver me into the hands of my master, and I will take you down to this band. David defeats the Amalekites. 16. And when he had taken him down, behold, there was spread abroad over all the land, eating and drinking and dancing, because of all the great spoil they had taken from the land of the Philistines and from the land of Judah. And David struck them down from twilight until evening of the next day, and not a man of them escaped except 400 young men who mounted camels and fled. David recovered all that the Amalekites had taken, and David rescued his 2 wives. Nothing was missing, whether small or great, sons or daughters, spoils, or anything that had been taken. David brought back all. David also captured all the flocks and herds, and the people drove the livestock before him and said, "This is David's spoil." Then David came to the 200 men who had been too exhausted to follow David, and who had been left at the brook Besor, and they went out to meet David and to meet the people who were with them. And when David came near to the people, he greeted them. Then all the wicked and worthless fellows among the men who had gone with David said, "Because they did not go up with us, we will not give them any of the spoil that we have recovered, except that each man may lead away his wife and children and depart." But David said, "You shall not do so, my brothers. For what the Lord has given us, he has preserved us and given into our hands the band that came against us, who would listen to you in this matter. For as his share is who goes down into the battle, so shall his share be who stays by the baggage. They shall share alike, and he made it a statute and a rule for Israel from that day forward to this day." When David came to Ziklag, he sent part of the spoil to his friends, the elders of Judah, saying, "Here is a present for you from the spoil of the enemies of the Lord. It is for those in Bethel, in Ramoth, in the Negev, in Judea, in Ariel, in Shepmoth, in Ephraim, in Rakal, in the cities of the Cheramelites, in the cities of the Kenites, in Hormah, in Bor Ashan, in Aphra, in Hebron, for all the places where David and his men had roamed." The death of Saul, chapter 31. Now the Philistines were fighting against Israel, and the men of Israel fled before the Philistines and fell slain on Mount Gilboa. And the Philistines overtook Saul and his sons, and the Philistines struck down Jonathan and Abinadab, Amalek, Shua, the sons of Saul. The battle pressed hard against Saul, and the archers found him, and he was badly wounded by the archers. Then Saul said to his armor-bearer, "Draw your sword and thrust me through with it, lest the uncircumcised come and thrust me through and mistreat me." But his armor-bearer would not, for he feared greatly. Therefore Saul took his own sword and fell upon it. And when his armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead, he also fell upon his sword and died with him. Thus Saul died, and his 3 sons, and his armor-bearer, and all his men, on the same day together. And when the men of Israel, who were on the other side of the valley, and those beyond the Jordan, saw that the men of Israel had fled, and that Saul and his sons were dead, they abandoned their cities and fled, and the Philistines came and lived in them. The next day, when the Philistines came to strip the slain, they found Saul and his 3 sons fallen on Mount Gilboa. So they cut off his head and stripped off his armor, and sent messengers throughout the land of the Philistines to carry the good news to the house of their gods and to the people. They put his armor in the temple of Ashtaroth, and they fastened his body to the wall of Bashan. But when the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead heard what the Philistines had done to Saul, all the valiant men arose and went all night and took the body of Saul and the body of his son from the wall of Bashan, and they came to Jabesh and burned them there. And they took their bones and buried them under the tamari tree in Jabesh and fasted 7 days. And this concludes the book of Saul. May God bless you and keep you. May He shine His light upon you and give you peace. In Yeshua's name, Amen.